The ghost and the baby. Everyone knows baby monitors are great for checking on our little ones whilst you're in a different room. However, as per the Hollywood horror movies, there are certain images and sounds you don't want to come through your baby monitor. Whilst spirits and ghosts may only be things of fiction to some, one American couple claim they've been driven from their home by evil occurrences, and the devilish incident that happened in their house didn't affect them, but their innocent 1-year-old baby. Heather Bruff, 25, had awoken her baby daughter Lily from a nap one day and brought the baby downstairs to sit with the family. But when Heather sat down with her baby in the living room, she noticed something strange. 3 scratches had appeared on Lily's face and were a deep shade of purple. Heather and her partner Josh naturally found this a bit strange, so they decided to check out the baby monitor in Lily's room to see if she'd scratched herself whilst asleep. But things quickly became a little more sinister. The couple noticed a figure in the room with Lily around the time that she was apparently scratched. However, it didn't seem like an intruder or a human one anyway. The figure seemed faint, much like a sort of spirit or ghost, and for the family, it only worsened a suspicion of paranormal activity in their Michigan home. Heather claimed she'd been experiencing strange goings-on for a period of time since they moved into the property. She'd apparently wake up feeling like somebody was strangling her and would hear groaning and shouting noises from a male voice in the middle of the night. Josh expressed his fear that the house may actually be haunted, and soon after, the couple began to look into their property's past. It transpired that the house had a dark past, and according to the couple, its former owner was a bedridden old lady who'd broken her hip and fallen down the stairs. For some years later, her schizophrenic brother had lived there too. Another story detailed the suicide of a man who lived in the guest house, which the family occupied adjacent to the old farmhouse the woman had died in. The couple have had the house investigated by paranormal investigators who confirmed a presence existed in the building. They no longer leave Lily upstairs in any room by herself and are determined to get to the bottom of the eerie happenings in their home. Recently, the family announced their intentions to move. The Black Monk of Pontefract. Located in East Yorkshire is one of the most famous poltergeist hauntings. The entity allegedly haunting this property has become known as the Black Monk of Pontefract. It's been at the centre of a large amount of evidence gathered to prove the existence of such paranormal entities and strange encounters. The first reported encounters of the Black Monk took place back in 1966, when the Pritchard family moved into the house in the town of Pontefract and became victims of strange paranormal sightings and experiences. They reported small, unexplainable happenings at first, such as that of small objects disappearing, strange foul smells that were reminiscent of a decaying body, lights suddenly turning on or off, and that of strange creaking throughout the house at random times throughout the night and day. These reports quickly became increasingly worrying as they began to encounter objects being thrown at them, pictures becoming slashed or broken, and a number of encounters of an entity dressed in a black robe hovering over them as they slept. Though many might claim that such accounts were falsified or exaggerated, during one instance of the haunting, a local MP, the police, and a vicar from the church witnessed the event and confirmed the sighting of the monk. Not only this, but the family living here at the time reported that water would suddenly appear in the house. One example they gave was mysterious puddles of water appearing on the kitchen floor. It's said to be one of Britain's most haunted houses, and every year it attracts paranormal investigators from around the globe. Surrey, England's A3 ghost crash. Christmas is a time of feasting and parties, of giving and receiving. However, if you're close to Surrey in England, you may be aware of the haunted A3 motorway. It was a dark December Sunday night in 2002, when a police force in Surrey, England received a flurry of calls. Drivers on the A3 driving south reported seeing a car lose control before leaving the road in a horrendous accident. The police took down the details and prepared to head out. Little did they know this would be the root of a ghost story that would go down forever in Surrey folklore. The police attended the scene, ready to come across the scene of an awful crash. What they found, however, was incredibly puzzling. It turns out that they had actually found nothing. Witnesses said they had seen the car swerve off the road, its headlights blazing as it plunged over the embankment into the woodland. At the reported location of the accident, police found no evidence of any wreckage. There was no car, debris, or tyre marks on the road, and the search for both car and driver yielded nothing. Even the woodland was untouched. An officer decided to go further into the undergrowth, and it was there that he made a startling discovery. A car headfirst into the undergrowth, the door smashed in, clearly the consequence of a motor accident of the same nature as the one reported. Except there was something odd about the scene. Spiderwebs hung from the car's side mirrors. Leaves completely covered the car and weeds grew around the wheels. More shockingly still, rather than a newly discovered body, the police officer stumbled upon a badly decomposed skeleton. This was not the scene of an accident that occurred a few hours previously. It had happened almost half a year earlier. It turns out the person in the car had been a 21-year-old man, reported missing by his brother several months ago. Police had no idea where to begin their search. He had last been seen out on the town, but nobody knew that he had then driven to Surrey after. Remarkably, the descriptions of the crash from those December witnesses were completely consistent with how police believed this crash from the months before had occurred. Those witnesses on the motorway that December night reported seeing a car leave the road in what they believed was a real accident. Police concurred with all the testified set of events, apart from, however, the actual date of occurrence. Is it that the crash the drivers witnessed was in fact a ghostly replay? The man's body was found outside the vehicle where, severely injured, he tried to crawl his way out of the undergrowth and back to the road for someone to find him. He could not make it up the steep embankment. It was then discovered later that a call was attempted from this man to his brother. His brother did not pick up, and again this man's efforts to be found went unanswered. So perhaps as the final roll of the dice, months later on a gloomy winter's night, this ghost crash was replayed when witnesses drove that same road and would be sure to find him, having seen the final vision of the deadly crash and the man's final moments as he headed over the embankment to the fate that awaited him. Agnes Waterhouse. Agnes Waterhouse was the first woman to be executed for witchcraft in England. Her execution took place in 1566, after Henry VIII had passed the first legal act against witchcraft. Waterhouse's unfortunate fate began when her sister, Elizabeth Frances, was accused of witchcraft. Following torture, Frances confessed to owning a cat named Satan, who had taught her witchcraft at the age of 12 years old. Frances told how the cat would speak to her in a hollow voice and do anything she wished in return for a drop of blood. The cat was responsible under Frances's orders for stealing sheep and killing several people, including Andrew Biles, a wealthy man who refused to marry Frances when she became pregnant with his child. It was said that the cat even advised Frances what herbs to take to cause her own abortion afterwards. After 13 years, Frances said she chose to give the cat to her sister in exchange for a cake. Frances told Waterhouse about the cat's abilities, and Waterhouse confessed to experimenting with the cat's powers by making it kill one of her own pigs. After confirming the cat's abilities, Waterhouse supposedly ordered the cat to kill the cows and geese of the neighbours she was warring with. Waterhouse always insisted she had never asked for the cat to kill a human. However, one of the most damning accusations against her came from her 12-year-old neighbour, Agnes Brown. Brown accused Waterhouse of sending a demon to her, who appeared as a black dog with a face like an ape and a pair of horns on its head. The dog repeatedly visited Brown and on the last visit threatened her with a knife, telling her it would thrust his knife to my heart, but he would make me die. When Brown asked the dog who its owner was, it cocked its head towards Waterhouse's home. Alongside the accusations put towards Frances and Waterhouse, Waterhouse's own daughter Joan was also accused of witchcraft. Joan testified that the cat had once offered to support her in any deed in exchange for her soul. Joan refused the cat's offer. While she was found not guilty, her testimony was a further nail in the coffin for her mother and aunt's case. Unfairly, even though Frances had confessed to causing the deaths of humans through the cat, she was given a light sentence, though 13 years later she was hanged following a second conviction. In contrast, Waterhouse, who had not confessed to causing the death of any person, was sentenced to death. Her trial was attended by several prominent figures, including Reverend Thomas Cole, Sir John Fortescue, Sir Gilbert Gerard, and John Southcote, Justice of the Queen's Bench. Despite her confessions of dealing with the cat, it is important to note that Waterhouse would have been tortured throughout her trial. Many to this day believe neither Waterhouse, her sister, or her daughter had any links to witchcraft. In fact, she had a reputation in her local village for being kind and helpful and a healer to those in pain. The Black Dog of Newgate. The Central Criminal Court in London was opened in 1907. It was built on the site of a former prison known as Newgate Prison. The infamous prison was known for its appalling conditions. In fact, the conditions in the prison were so bad that Henry Fielding, who was a famous 18th century writer, termed the prison as a prototype of hell. A narrow passageway was located behind the Newgate prison, and it was used to take certain criminals to meet their demise. This haunting passageway has become known as Dead Man's Walk. After the construction of the Central Criminal Court, the passageway was converted into a courtyard known as Amen Court. During earlier days, the passageway was known for being the home of a fearsome ghost dog. Although this sounds unrealistic, many came forward with their story of the Black Dog of Newgate. Even to this day, many believe Amen Court is still haunted by this mysterious black dog. The origins of the Black Dog of Newgate go back to 1596, when a man was thrown into Newgate prison on charges of sorcery. During that time, London was hit by the Great Famine, and many prisoners within Newgate prison starved to death. Starvation led some prisoners to resort to cannibalism. The alleged sorcerer became a victim of cannibalism, and he met his demise at the hands of his cellmates. According to the legend, several days after the death of the sorcerer, his spirit returned to the prison in the form of a fearsome black dog. The ghost dog wreaked havoc in Newgate prison for several nights. It ripped the limbs off a number of prisoners, and some even passed away from fear of seeing the entity. Many prisoners resorted to fighting the guards as they didn't want to have another run-in with the black dog. It is believed that a few of the prisoners who had managed to escape were a part of the mob that had murdered the sorcerer and feasted on his body. The black dog hunted down all those involved in the murder. Once the black dog had the revenge by killing those involved in the murder, it stopped the carnage. However, to this day, the presence of the ghastly canine is felt in Amen Court. Some people have claimed to have seen a black dog-like ghostly figure slithering along the walls of Amen Court. A disgusting odour and the sound of the footsteps dragging is said to accompany the ghostly figure of the black dog.